imagine you want to understand um, why a specific political candidate just won a massive election. Or, why a new product is suddenly flying off the shelves everywhere.
Right, you want to know what's driving it.
Exactly. And you could easily pull up the spreadsheets, right? You could look at the cold, hard numbers, the demographic breakdown, profit margins, polling averages, but numbers only tell you the what.
Yeah, they give you the skeleton.
Right. They completely miss what it actually feels like to be the person making those choices on the ground. The numbers give you the skeleton, but they don't give you the heartbeat.
Which is why a spreadsheet might tell you that, like, 80% of people in a certain zip code bought a specific brand of coffee. But it will never tell you about the nostalgia that coffee smell triggers for them.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
It won't capture the tone of the conversations they have while drinking it at their kitchen table,
Welcome to today's deep dive. Our mission today is to explore a fascinating stack of research that reveals how social scientists capture that messy, subjective reality of human behavior.
It's all about moving past the numbers.
Yes, to understand the human experience and how you can use these exact same techniques to be a better listener, a better manager, and just, a deeper thinker in your own everyday life. So, okay, let's unpack this.
To truly understand that human experience, we first have to figure out where to look. And more importantly, how to shift our own perspective.
Right.
In qualitative research, they talk about this shift as moving away from an etic perspective and embracing an emic perspective.
Okay, I'm guessing etic is the spreadsheet view, like the view from a distance?
It is. It's the view from the outside looking in.
Like standing on a balcony.
Exactly. It's the external researcher, the objective observer, standing on the balcony and looking down at a crowd. Quantitative research, with all its statistics and massive surveys, is very etic.
Like those polling averages we were talking about.
Right. Qualitative research, on the other hand, prioritizes the emic perspective. That is the insider's view.
Okay, the insider.
Yeah, the researcher's trying to understand the world directly through the eyes of the people who are actually living that reality on the ground floor.
So not just plotting a data point.
No, the goal is what anthropologists call a thick description.
A thick description. That implies we are looking for layers, right? Rather than just surface-level facts.
Yes, layers of meaning. We are looking for a rich, narrative-based explanation of an experience.
Okay.
A thick description includes the context, the emotions, the cultural influences, and, all the unspoken rules that guide behavior in a specific space.
Wow, that's a lot to capture.
It is.
Oh.
And a highly effective way to start capturing this thick description is by identifying what researchers call a small world.
So shrinking the focus down.
By orders of magnitude, yeah. A small world is a highly specific, bounded setting. It has its own unique rules, its own language, its own internal culture.
What's a good example of that?
The sources we're looking at give some great ones. It could be a particular church congregation, a dedicated subculture of fantasy football players, or even just the regulars at a local neighborhood bar.
Oh, I see. So you aren't trying to study all of humanity.
No, not at all. You are trying to study this one specific ecosystem in microscopic detail.
That dynamic reminds me of, starting a brand new job at a big corporation.
Oh, sure.
Like, if you just look at the corporate org chart, which would be the Paretic perspective, right?
Yeah.
The view from the outside, you have absolutely no idea how that company actually runs.
You just see the boxes in line.
Exactly. You know who reports to who on paper, but you don't know the real power dynamics. You only learn how the company functions by listening to the break room gossip or, figuring out who the office peacekeeper actually is.
Understanding the unspoken culture.
Right. That's the amic perspective. You have to learn the small world of that specific office.
That org chart dynamic gets right to the heart of it. You are looking for the shared meanings that only the insiders understand, things that would never show up in the official employee handbook.
But wait, if a researcher's stepping into someone else's small world, how do they keep their own baggage at the door?
That's a great question.
Because we all have our own life experiences that color how we see things. If I walk into a local bar to study the culture, I'm bringing all my own assumptions with me.
Qualitative researchers don't actually try to leave their baggage at the door.
Really?
Yeah, that is considered basically impossible. Instead, they actively document it. They use two critical concepts to manage this: positionality and reflexivity.
Okay, positionality.
Positionality means recognizing your own characteristics, your experiences, your background, and acknowledging how those specific traits might influence the study.
Like whether you fit in or not.
Yeah. Are you an insider to this group or an outsider? Do you share characteristics with the people you are studying, Or are you vastly different in terms of, like, power, class, or background?
Which means they aren't pretending to be perfectly objective, invisible observers.
Not at all. They are the instrument of data collection itself. So they have to calibrate the instrument.
Oh, I like that. Calibrate the instrument.
And that calibration is reflexivity. It's the active, continuous process of examining those biases throughout the entire study.
How do you even do that, practically speaking?
It involves keeping a really detailed journal, making notes on your own emotional reactions, and constantly asking yourself, like, am I interpreting this interaction correctly? Or am I just projecting what I want to see based on my own preconceptions?
So it's almost like a dual study. You are studying the small world, but you are also constantly studying your own reaction to the small world.
Exactly.
Okay, assuming you've done that and you've identified the specific ecosystem you want to look at, you still have a logistical problem.
The approach.
Right, you can't just kick the door down, walk into a private club, pull out a notebook, and start taking notes. People would immediately freeze up.
Oh, absolutely. The social landscape has to be navigated really carefully. This brings us into the realm of observation and ethnography.
Ethnography.
Yeah, ethnography is a deep dive type of qualitative research where the researcher immerses themselves in a social context for an extended period of time. And the way you observe actually exists on a spectrum.
Okay, what's on one end?
On one end, you have non-participant observation. This is essentially being a fly on the wall, sitting quietly on a park bench and just watching people.
I guess the massive benefit there is that you don't interfere with the natural flow of things. The environment stays totally pristine.
Exactly.
But the downside is that you are guessing at the internal meaning behind what people are doing. You see them doing an action, but you have no idea why.
Which is why, on the far end of the spectrum, you have participant observation.
Now, joining in?
Yes. This is where the researcher dives headfirst into the culture and actually does the things the group is doing. The source material highlights some incredible cases of this. There's Loic Wacquant, a French sociologist who literally became a boxer in a poverty-stricken neighborhood in Chicago to study the boxing subculture.
Wait, he actually fought?
He didn't just watch them spar, yeah. He trained with them, he lived that daily grind, and he learned the physical and social realities of that world with his own body.
That is wild.
And there's another case, Peter Moskos, a sociologist, who actually went through the police academy and became a police officer in Baltimore so he could study policing from the inside.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
If you literally become a boxer or you put on a badge and become a cop, don't you lose all your scientific objectivity?
It's a risk.
Aren't you just one of the guys at that point? How do you stay a rigorous researcher when you are literally taking punches to the face or patrolling a beat in a squad car?
That tension is the inherent trade-off in ethnography.
Uh.
You absolutely risk losing some analytical distance. You risk going native, as the field calls
Who's
it.
native, right?
But researchers make this trade because the level of thick description you gain by experiencing the visceral, physical, and psychological reality of that world, it's something a standardized survey could never capture.
Yeah, a survey can't capture a punch to the face.
Exactly. Wacquant could never fully grasp the physical toll or the intense brotherhood of the boxing gym just by handing out a multiple-choice questionnaire to the fighters. He had to feel the exhaustion in his own muscles to write accurately about it.
But to even get the chance to feel that exhaustion, someone has to let you into the gym in the first place, right?
Yes, and that introduces the gatekeepers.
The gatekeepers.
These are the crucial insiders, maybe the gym owner, the police sergeant, or, respected local community leader. They hold the social authority to grant or deny you access to these closed groups.
So if they say no, you're done.
If the gatekeeper doesn't trust your intentions, your research project is effectively over before it even begins. Relationships are quite literally the foundation of the data collection.
So observation gets you in the room. And if you earn the trust of the gatekeepers, you get to see how the small world operates. But eventually you hit a wall, I'd imagine. You can only learn so much by watching.
Right. Observation has limits.
To find out why the boxer takes the punch, or why the employee is breaking the rules you saw on that org chart, you actually have to get them to open up and talk to you. But how do you do that without making it sound like an interrogation?
You have to master the art of the interview. And researchers break this down into 3 categories. First is the structured interview.
Structured.
Yeah, this is essentially a verbal survey. The researcher brings a very rigid, predetermined list of questions. They read them exactly as written, in the exact same order, to every single participant.
That sounds incredibly stiff.
It is, but it allows you to easily compare answers across hundreds of people.
But it doesn't sound like it leaves any room for following up on something weird or interesting, they might say.
It doesn't,
Yeah.
not at all. So on the total opposite end, you have the unstructured interview.
Okay, unstructured.
This is a free-flowing conversation. You might start with a single prompt, like, tell me about your time in the military, and then you just let the person talk for an hour.
Which sounds great for making them comfortable, but I imagine the data is a total nightmare to analyze because every single interview wanders off in a completely different direction.
Oh, the analysis becomes nearly impossible. You have all these disparate stories. That is why the gold standard in qualitative research is the semi-structured interview.
The middle ground.
Exactly. The
Okay.
researcher uses an interview guide like a list of core topics and predetermined questions, but they maintain the flexibility to chase down interesting tangents.
So you can pivot.
Yes.
Hmm.
If the participant mentions something surprising, the researcher can pause the script and ask, wait, can you tell me more about that?
Right.
Think about this in terms of practical daily life, like going on a first date or networking.
Oh, God.
Right. If you show up to a date with a rigid checklist of structured questions like, what is your 5-year plan? What are your top 3 weaknesses? It feels like a job interview. It feels like an interrogation.
The person totally shuts down. You'll just get rehearsed answers.
Exactly.
And if you show up with zero plan and just stare at them waiting for them to talk, it's incredibly awkward.
Right. The unstructured approach fails there too. The best conversations are semi-structured. You have a few core topics in mind, but you naturally probe and pivot based on their answers. That's how you get the real story.
It sounds a lot like a jazz performance, actually.
Oh, I like that analogy.
You have the sheet music, the interview protocol to keep you grounded, but the real magic happens when you know how to improvise based on what the other person is giving you.
And sometimes, you want to hear the whole band play together, not just a solo performance. That's where focus groups come in.
Focus groups?
Yeah. A focus group gathers usually 6 to 10 people to discuss a specific topic, guided by a facilitator. The reason you do this, instead of just interviewing those 10 people individually, is because human reality is socially constructed.
Meaning we bounce off each other.
Yes. In a focus group, you get to observe the group dynamics in real time. You see how people agree, how they argue, and how they build on each other's ideas.
So someone says something and it triggers a memory for someone else.
Exactly. A participant might mention a frustration, and someone else nods and says, yes, I feel the exact same way, which sparks a whole new avenue of conversation that you, as the outsider, never would have thought to ask about.
Okay, so let's look at where we are. You've identified your small world, you've navigated the gatekeepers, you've done the participant observation, maybe even taken a few punches in a boxing ring.
Right.
You've run the semi-structured interviews and hosted the focus groups. You now have hundreds and hundreds of pages of written transcripts. You have an absolute mountain of words.
A literal mountain.
The biggest challenge has to be figuring out what to actually do with all that text.
Finding the signal in that noise is arguably the most daunting part of the process. And the foundational approach for handling this is called grounded theory.
Grounded theory. Okay.
In traditional quantitative research, you use a deductive approach. You start with a hypothesis, a theory you already have, and then you collect data to prove or disprove it.
Right, the standard scientific method.
Grounded theory flips that upside down. It's an inductive approach. You do not start with a hypothesis. You start with the raw data, and you let the theory emerge directly from what the participants are saying.
Wait, you don't start with a hypothesis? That feels like doing science backward. How do you even know what questions to ask if you don't know what you're looking for?
You start with a broad area of inquiry, sure, but you deliberately avoid guessing the answer beforehand.
Why?
Because if you guess the answer, your positionality and bias will make you look for evidence that proves you right. And you'll miss the real emic perspective.
Okay. You'll just see what you want to see.
Exactly. So instead of guessing, you use a highly systematic process called coding to build the theory from the text.
How does that actually work mechanically? I mean, I can't just stare at 500 pages of transcripts until an idea pops in my head.
No, you go crazy. You break it down. The first step is open coding. You read through your transcripts line by line, and you start assigning broad, descriptive labels to specific phrases.
Give me an example.
Let's look at a case study from the research. Researchers wanted to explore how pets influence mental health. During open coding, they might highlight a sentence where a participant says, "My dog is always there for me," and label that chunk of text comfort.
Okay.
Then they highlight another sentence where someone says, "I have to get out of bed at 7 a.m. to walk the dog," and label that routine.
So you are just assigning name tags to thousands of little chunks of text.
Pretty much. And once everything is tagged, you move to the next stage, axial coding.
Axial coding.
This is where you look for the causal links.
Hmm.
You aren't just looking at the labels anymore. You're looking at the mechanisms connecting them. You start looking for the if-then relationships.
How did that play out in the PRED study?
In that study, researchers noticed that when a participant felt isolated, then the dog's routine provided the structure necessary to get moving. They are drawing causal arrows between comfort and routine.
I see.
Through this coding process, they develop a broader, grounded theory that pets serve as a vital source of motivation for adults to engage with the day. The theory wasn't guessed. It was built meticulously, quote by quote, from the ground up.
That's really cool. But this brings up a massive logistical nightmare. If you are just talking to people and coding their answers to find themes, how do you know when you're done? You could theoretically interview people forever. There is always one more person you could talk to.
It's true, and this is a major difference from quantitative research, where a statistical formula tells you exactly how many people you need to survey. Qualitative research relies on a concept called saturation. Think of it like exploring a brand new city. On day one, every street corner is a new discovery.
Yeah.
You are constantly mapping new landmarks.
Sure.
But by day 5, you are still walking around, but you realize you are just passing the same 3 coffee chain locations over and over again. You haven't run out of energy to walk, but you have mapped the territory.
You aren't finding any new colors on the map.
That is theoretical saturation. It is the exact point in your sampling where talking to more people stops yielding any new concepts or themes.
So they just start repeating what others already said.
Exactly. If you interview 20 people about their pets and the first 15 give you diverse new information, but participants 16 through 20 just repeat the exact same themes of comfort and routine, you have mapped the territory.
And that's how you know you're done.
That is the signal that your sample size is sufficient, and you can focus on writing up your findings.
So you write up your findings. You have this beautiful, grounded theory built from hours of semi-structured interviews and careful axial coding. But because this entire process relies so heavily on your interpretation of words and your specific codes and your feelings as an observer, how do you prove to the rest of the world that these findings are real?
That's the million-dollar question.
Right. How do you prove it's not just your imagination or your unexamined bias slipping through?
That is the final crucial hurdle. In quantitative research, they talk about proving validity. In qualitative research, the terminology shifts to proving trustworthiness and consistency.
Trustworthiness.
You aren't claiming to have found a universal law of physics. You are trying to prove that your analysis is a highly rigorous, dependable reflection of that specific small world. And there are specific tools to prove that trustworthiness. The first is data triangulation.
Like a GPS system using multiple satellites to pinpoint a location.
A very similar mechanism, yeah. You do not rely on just one single method of data collection. If you are studying the culture of a high school, you don't just do interviews.
Okay, what else do you do?
You do interviews with the teachers, plus you do participant observation at the cafeteria, plus you analyze the students' written journals.
I see.
If the interviews, the observation, and the journals all point to the exact same theme, say a culture of intense academic anxiety, then your findings are triangulated. The evidence is much stronger because it's corroborated from multiple distinct angles.
Triangulation makes perfect sense. But what if all your data sources are slightly biased by your own perspective as the researcher? Are you ever allowed to just take the theory back to the people you studied and ask them if you actually got it right?
You are, and it's actually the second major technique for trustworthiness. It's called member checking.
Member checking.
You take your final analysis, your themes, and your codes, and you take them directly back to the participants. You present the narrative to them and ask, does this accurately reflect your lived experience?
So what does this all mean for you listening right now? Member checking is an incredibly powerful tool for your everyday life.
Oh, absolutely.
Think about it. If you are in a heated argument with a partner, or you're in a confusing, tense meeting with a boss, we usually just assume we know what the other person means based on our own biases. We run with our own assumptions.
Which, in this context, is simply poor qualitative research.
Exactly. But if you pause the argument, summarize what you think they mean, and say, it sounds like you're feeling frustrated because you think I'm ignoring your input. Is that an accurate reflection of your position? That is member checking in real life.
It's amazing how well it works, too.
It instantly builds trust. it clarifies misunderstandings, and it forces you to prioritize the emic perspective of the person sitting across from you.
It's a highly effective way to apply the methodology. And if you want to make an even stronger case, the research points to one final strategy mixed methods.
What's that?
This is where you bring the numbers back in. You pair the qualitative story with the quantitative data.
Ah, merging the two.
Right. You use the survey to prove that 80% of employees are unhappy. The what? And then you use the qualitative interviews and the coded transcripts to explain the why. You pair the statistical proof with the lived experience to create a truly bulletproof argument.
It's the best of both worlds, the skeleton and the heartbeat working together.
Exactly.
We have covered a massive amount of ground today. We started by looking at the importance of the emic perspective, the insider's view. We talked about finding a small world and navigating the social authority of gatekeepers to get inside.
Taking the punches, literally.
Right. We explored how researchers gathered data through observation and how they use semi-structured interviews and focus groups to truly listen without interrogating. We broke down the mechanics of grounded theory, learning how to build themes from the ground up using open and axial coding until you hit saturation. And finally, we looked at how to prove the trustworthiness of it all through triangulation and member checking.
It is a rigorous, demanding process. But if we connect this to the bigger picture, it's a reminder that we are all, in a way, informal qualitative researchers.
Yeah, that's true.
Every time you try to genuinely understand a friend's point of view, instead of just categorizing them, every time you ask a follow-up question to dig deeper into someone's experience, you are doing this work. You are prioritizing the human element over the surface-level assumption.
And that leads me to a final thought I want to leave you with. We live in a world that is completely obsessed with big data. Every day, algorithms track our clicks, our watch times, our locations, and our purchases with perfect quantitative precision.
Spreadsheets are getting huge.
Larger and more detailed than ever before in human history. But if this deep dive into qualitative research teaches us anything, it's that numbers, no matter how big or how precise, completely strip away the context.
They do.
So as our lives become increasingly measured, predicted, and categorized by algorithms, ask yourself, what essential, complex, and beautiful parts of your human experience are completely invisible to the data?
Because the things that matter most rarely fit neatly into a spreadsheet cell.
Well said. Until next time, keep exploring the small worlds around you.